Attorney General Loretta Lynch was on the Hill today in front of the House Judiciary Committee at an oversight hearing on Justice Department operations. Regarding those operations, Attorney General Lynch stonewalled the committee with non-answers and legal diversion.
Director Comey stated that there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information. Do you agree with Director Comey's statement?
Again, I would refer you to Director Comey for any further explanation as to the basis for his recommendations. The recommendation that I received from the team, including Director Comey, was that the investigation be resolved without charges.
Director Comey made a recommendation, but he made a recommendation to the Department of Justice, which you head, and you would have to come to the final conclusion on whether or not to act. I would presume that before you acted, you would look at his conclusions and determine whether you agreed with them or not.
Meanwhile, the Democrats used the opportunity to promote gun control.
There is an epidemic of gun violence, and how has the majority in Congress responded? With emergency hearings about Hillary Clinton's and Lois Lerner's emails.
Democratic Congressman Hank Johnson weighed in on the Democrats' perception that the hearings were unimportant to the protection of national security.
My colleagues on the other side of the aisle don't. They're just tone deaf, and they insist on chasing rabbits down holes by trying to make some hay out of something that this is over with.
You may remember Johnson once expressed concern over Guam tipping over.
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
But Lynch could not avoid the clarity surrounding her decision to speak with Bill Clinton days before the decision and her declaration to support the FBI's investigation before the investigation was closed.
You have a conversation with the former president, the husband of the subject of an ongoing investigation, and you have that conversation before they've interviewed the subject and before they've reached their recommendations and finished their investigation. That's what triggered you to do this thing you've never done before, which is announce, I don't care what they recommend, I'm going to follow it.
My concern was that the conversation that I had with President Clinton would be seen by some as having an influence over that. I felt it was important to clarify.
Just some, General Lynch, a lot of people.
But now, as Kurt Nimmo writes, FBI Director James Comey's past and present employment as director of HSBC's holdings and subsequent promotion to independent non-executive director and a member of the Financial System Vulnerabilities Committee, an appointment set to expire this year, clearly has blatant ties to the Clinton Foundation. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte of Virginia and committee member Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina want to know if the emails that were deleted and recovered by the FBI had anything to do with the Clinton Foundation. The Mexican drug cartel money laundering Swiss bank, HSBC, is connected to the Clinton Foundation through a number of initiatives, including its Building the Corporate Coalition, investing in management and leadership in Vietnam, and other American economy destroying free trade agreement projects. Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley, and a number of transnational corporations also participate. The Clintons have used the foundation to enrich themselves. Documents disclosed through litigation by Judicial Watch provided a roadmap for over 200 conflict of interest rulings that led to at least $48 million in speaking fees for the Clintons during Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton and her aides were involved in fundraising for the foundation, and she turned the State Department into the D.C. office of the Clinton Foundation, something she will now do to the White House. What will it take to convince every American citizen that they are being scammed at the highest levels? In my next report, I will be digging into Comey's involvement into Whitewater. Comey's protection of the Clinton corruption machine goes way back. John Bound for Infowars.com.